Yeah, just turn it down low.
All right. So, Jim, if you could just kind of mute everyone until, except for the board, so when we do the roll call, they can respond. All right. So, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather on place, no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. This meeting will be accessible for the public via the Zoom online option. All right. So at this point, I would request that members of the board respond to a roll call. I am Dan Spencer. I am present. Michael Connor.
Present.
Don Martinez.
Present.
Cynthia McNulty.
Present.
Robert Biaggi.
Present.
Excellent. We have other members joining us from the town. As usual, we have Town Administrator Dennis Frayne, as well as Bellingham Board of Selectmen Administrative Assistant Hillary Alley. We have various guests as well joining us, and they will be introduced at the time that they speak. So let me scroll down because I can't read it on my phone because my eyes are horrible. In accordance with the Bellingham Code of Bylaws, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 30th, which was continued until today, in the Municipal Center Arcan Meeting Room, or virtually, on the application of Connect Ed and Inspired LLC for a common victular license, premises located at 1048 Main Street. Do we have the Nadine Clifford? Are you online, right, with us?
Yep, I am here.
Okay, so you're applying for a common vic license. If you could kind of just give us a quick overview of what you're looking to do and introduce yourself to the members of the board.
Sure, I'm Nadine Clifford. I'm the owner of Connected and Inspired. We took over the Wengers Farm Country Store location back in December, where we turned the actual country store into a studio that can be used for yoga. And we offer enrichment as well as educational classes in what used to be the country store. The ice cream stand portion is also leased by us, and we're hoping to reopen the ice cream stand to be able to offer the ice cream from the middle of May through the middle of September of each year. In addition to that, we're also looking to offer baking classes as well as bring back the apple cider donuts and some baked goods throughout the year.
Yum.
All right, so at this point, I will open up any kind of questions or comments to members of the board for Nadine.
So,
Dan.
Mr. Spencer? Okay, go ahead,
we'll go-
Cindy. I'll go
All right,
after
Cindy,
you.
then Don.
Nadine, I just wanted to thank you very much for what you've been doing for the Bellingham community in terms of being a point place for people to pick up meals. I just want to thank you for being part of our community right from the get-go. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a very warm welcome, and I'm so pleased that we actually have the space to be able to offer. It's been a great opportunity to get to know people as well.
So, Mr. Spencer, this is actually a question for Mr. Kupfer. Hi, Nadine. This is Don Martinez, and welcome. The question is, and I know this has come up before the board in the past, it sounded to me, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, it sounded to me like there's 3 different businesses. And my understanding is in our bylaws, Mr. Kupfer, I see that you're present, is that a dwelling like that, and we had this issue going back a few years where it used to be the Bel Air Gardens, and then it turned into, there was 3 distinct businesses. I just want to make sure that we're in, that Nadine's in compliance with our bylaws, that there aren't 3 distinct different businesses. Sounds like yoga, wellness. There's also like, selling bakery items, and then there's ice cream. Does that constitute 3 different businesses?
Right.
Again,
So
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand the zoning laws. I know that we've had some issues in the past, and I don't want Nadine to run into similar issues or have people come back to us saying, hey, we're allowing her, but not them.
Right.
Have
And
issues.
so Nadine will attest, we actually have been going back and forth for several months now. When she first walked into my office and met with myself and Tim Icardi, we highlighted those concerns as well.
Okay.
Knowing the property, knowing the how busy it is at times, and the different uses that are currently on the site, we did raise those concerns with her. Both Tim and I have worked with Nadine to get it to a level where we're fairly comfortable on the two uses that we see there. The class, essentially, those types of uses, the yoga, what have you, and then the market or the ice cream, etc. Those two uses there. Now there's a space underneath that the owner of the property, now Nadine, my understanding is you are leasing from Mr. Wanger. And so he's been made aware that he's maxed out on the uses. He has Nadine and her uses, and then his uses with the sheds and what have you. And the development plan that was done several years ago accommodated for those three uses, with the understanding that the parking would be made available. And I provided Nadine with that parking plan. And we've provided Mr. Wanger with that parking plan as well. We've had some concerns. We were on site just the other day about sheds taking up some of those parking spaces. And so we were told from one of the family members of Mr. Wanger that they would be cleaned up and taken care of. So as long as that's taken care of, I believe they are in compliance from a zoning perspective at this time.
Okay, that's all I have to ask. I just wanted to understand if we've analyzed the business use. So thank you. Welcome, Nadine.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. This is Mr. Bob Biaggi. Welcome, Nadine,
Yes,
to
Bob.
our community. Jim, you touched on the parking. That has always been a bone of contention with that property. Even with the spaces that they did have, kind of backing in and out was always kind of a harrowing situation. So, what exactly are the plans for the parking spaces? Are we talking repaving over the gravel, or is it something a little more less entailed than that?
Yeah, less entailed than that. There was discussions several times about paving, and Don will attest, that's a large expense with drainage and what have you in that location. So it's always been meant to remain gravel. However, many of the spaces over the years have been taken up by the products that they're making and selling. And that's always been an issue, a compliance issue that we've constantly had with the property owner, not Nadine, obviously she's new, but with the property owner, we've made him well aware of that issue.
Okay, thank you.
And less
I can also
less
say that-
impervious. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that there were the original 37 spots, and I have since gone around to make sure that all 37 spots have been clearly marked. So as of yesterday, all 37 spots are now open, and they all have clear markings. So that way we do have plenty of parking for the foreseeable future.
All right. Do we have any other comments from my colleagues on the board?
Dan, question to Jim Kupfer. How many spots does this business need if there's 37?
Yep, so 37 is the number. I'm glad Nadine's taking a look at it. 37 is the number for this square footage that's there. If there's that space below that's currently vacant, if there's an active proposal for that area, we've talked to the owner of the property about accommodating for more parking behind the building, which would mean some of that storage space would have to be taken out. As I believe Mr. Poirier would attest to, it's kind of difficult to get around that facility.
So are we talking of that some of those buildings that are on the left-hand side will remain there? Because there's many times when large trailers show up and are moving product that easily 10 parking spots.
Yeah, I would have to take, I can take a look back at it, but I believe the sheds on the right, or everything on the left, if you're standing on South Main Street, everything to the left remained. We had a concern about a number of sheds running along the right edge that was meant to always to be parking, which made you a wide drive lane. And there was an issue of those continually showing up at that location.
And Nadine, you're saying that they've been removed as of today? Because I was just there the other day getting some scrap wood and they were still there.
They did some shifting 2 days ago, and this morning I went around and counted, and the 37 spots are clearly marked at this point in time,
Excellent. Thank you.
according to the plan.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
All right. Yes, please.
good evening, Mark Porian, the Deputy Fire Chief. You mentioned that you were going to make baked goods and apple cider donuts. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay, so what needs to happen is there needs to be a full inspection of the kitchen.
Mhm.
And so Mr. Wanger was doing the same thing with the apple cider donuts. Are you going to fry them in a fryer later, or he had a portable donut maker? Is
It's a
that you're going
donut
to use the
maker.
same thing?
Yes, it's the same machine.
All right, that's going to have to be approved for the location from the fire department
Mhm.
prior to you starting. So the kitchen needs an inspection. The fryer later for the apple cider donuts needs to be. We need a plan drawn up and submitted to the fire department and the building department, so we can review and approve or deny.
I have reached out to the fire department. I do anticipate a call back tomorrow, and I have somebody coming in from an outside source to be able to run through all of our extinguishers as well as the fire suppression system before they get here to make sure everything is up to date.
Hey, did you say you notified someone from the fire department?
I've called 3 times and left messages. I also contacted the gentleman who is out currently on medical. So he gave me Captain, hold on, Captain.
Yeah, you know what? Don't worry about that. Go through me, and I'll make sure that we get this settled and figured out. Okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No worries. I'll swing by tomorrow and give you my card, and so you have all my information.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. No worries.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is there any further comment from anybody who may be in attendance?
Dan, if I could for a second,
Yes, Bruce.
also, as part of the inspections on the kitchen, the Board of Health will have to come out, either myself or Rob. I don't know if you want to coordinate that with Mark and we all come out at once, or whether we make separate visits, but just make sure we all get there, because each one of us has the permitting and sign off for you.
Okay.
Okay, any further comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a first from Mrs. McNulty. Do we have a second?
Second, Biaggi.
Second, Mr. Biaggi. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. All right, so at this point, I will entertain a motion to grant the common victular license to, let me scroll back. Of course, my computer is.
Mr. Spencer, this is Mr.
Yes.
Martinez. Can we actually do this without the inspections and the sign-offs from Board of Health and Fire?
I
Or
believe
should
we
we
can do it
table this?
contingently. Right? Can't we?
I just want to make sure, I'm not trying to hold
yeah.
the process up, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's difficult for us to approve a license if it hasn't been inspected.
Typically, this is Dennis, typically they would not get their permit until such time as the different departments sign off. So it's not unusual to do it this way. They just won't get their permits to occupy those spaces or conduct those businesses until such time as everybody's signed off.
So Dennis, what I'm asking is then, should we conditionally approve the common vic? Is that's okay to do a contingent?
Sure, you could
Okay.
continue it subject to inspections by Board of Health and Fire and any other
Okay.
agency to approve.
Okay, then I'll make that motion to make this conditional upon the common vic, upon the approval of Fire and Board of Health, then receiving their signed off certificates.
Second.
All right. We have a first from Mr. Martinez, a second from Mr. Biaggi. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. All right. And my computer screen is frozen at this point, so I can't bring up the next public hearing.
Thank you, Nadine.
Do you want me to
One
read it
second
for you,
here.
or-
What's that?
I was asking if you wanted one of us to read it for you.
Yes,
Or
if you could. We're just continuing this public meeting, so if you, the public hearing, so if you can read it for me, that'd be great.
Sure. In accordance with the Bellingham Code of Bylaws, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 30th, which is now April 13th, 7:05 p.m. in the Municipal Center Arcam Meeting Room, also known as Zoom, on the application of Amazing Bargains for a secondhand dealer's license, premises located at 133 Pulaski Boulevard.
All right, thank you, Cindy. So it looks like we have Mina McHale in attendance. Is that correct?
I hope you're hearing me.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we
hear
hear
you.
you, Mina.
So if you could kind of just give yourself an introduction, what you're looking to do, and we'll take it from there, and we'll field some questions from the my colleagues on the board.
Basically, this is gonna be like selling used. My name is Mina Michael, and I am at 133 Pulaski Boulevard. I used to have a business called Mike's Games and Bites, and this business is gonna be closed. Actually, closed in the end of December. I closed it, and right now I'm gonna try to open another one, and this is gonna be like basically selling used and new goods to the public.
Okay, so you're you were selling what previously at that previous location?
Oh, the previous business was Mike's Games and Bites. Basically, it was like a gaming center, so people can come and kids can come and play games like Nintendo Switches and Xboxes, and it just didn't work. And plus, this coronavirus is just totally got destroyed. So I said I'm gonna close it, and I got this idea about selling new and used items, and that's the next business. Hopefully this time works, because next time I'm just gonna close the whole place. That's it.
Okay, so what kind of items are you looking at? As far as, I mean, are you looking at electronic goods? Are you looking at jewelry? Just kind of an
Basically,
overview of what you.
everything, yeah. Basically, it's everything, like jewelry, whatever. I'm gonna tell you exactly where we're gonna get the items, because this is how it's gonna work. We're gonna get the used items from the storage unit auctions. So basically, anything in the storage unit, I will be able to sell it. And the new items, we will get it from the ballot wholesalers. Basically, it's returns or overstocks and stuff like this. So we have a guy in Johnston, Rhode Island. We have been buying stuff, the ballots, actually, it's ballots from them.
Okay.
And we sell it item by item after that.
All right.
There'll be no food. There'll be no food being sold.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is my partner, Jody, though.
Hi,
How you
how are
doing?
you?
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, thanks. All right, so I'm just looking at the application. You've been in touch with the Bellingham Police. You've talked to Detective Provost about with regards to what the procedure is for incoming when you purchase any kind of used material, used goods, that there's supposed to be a hold on them. You're supposed to fully document, send pictures, so you're fully aware of what the provisions are with regards to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, my partner used to have the same kind of business in Bellingham. That's why she knows the procedure, all of it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All
we
right.
discussed this, me and her, and we had the decision that we're not gonna buy anything from anybody. Like basically, the
Outsiders.
no outsiders. No, nobody's gonna come in here and sell us something. I'm not gonna take it from them.
Okay. All right. I will open up questions to my colleagues.
Hi, Dan. This is Bob Biaggi. Hello, Mina and Judy.
Hi.
Yes.
Question on the business currently. That's the one next to the Italian pizza place.
Yeah,
What
that's
is-
right.
Okay. What is the square footage of that location?
It's about 112 square feet, but we have a full basement downstairs, and we have like a side room, so it's gonna be a little bit more than that.
You see,
I don't know exact the footage though.
Okay, so is your plan to allow public access to the basement space as well for no?
No. The basement is gonna be just for the storage, and the side room is also gonna be just for storage and getting the new items sorted out in the side room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Connor, Mr. Martinez, Mrs. McNulty.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. What are the hours going to be for this place?
My idea right now is gonna be about from 10 o'clock in the morning till maximum 6 o'clock at night. Like if it's gonna go to 7, I'm not. It's gonna be maximum 7 o'clock at night. That's it. After that, it's gonna be closed, and we're gonna take one day off. I'm not 100% sure which day, but it's gonna be either Monday, one of the weekdays.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not clear on what actually you're going to be selling. Maybe I wasn't processing what you were saying. What are you actually going to be selling at this place? I
gonna be
understand you're
selling-
buying it from other people, but what are
Well,
some
we're gonna-
examples of the products?
We're going to be selling new and slightly used items. The new will be coming from the auctions, and the slightly used will be coming from like storage units, which they also have auctions. That
Can you-
place or the retail. Do you hear me?
Oh, no, I hear you fine. Items is a very vague general term to me. Is it
All
like
right, it's
furniture, clothing?
no clothing. It's gonna be household items like say toasters, microwaves, record players, crock pots, household items, as well as furniture like beds. No mattress and box springs though, because I already know the rule and the law on that we're not allowed to sell them in Massachusetts. So we won't be selling mattresses and box springs, just like the bed frames, dressers, a full bedroom set. What else will we be selling?
Well, for those of
Anything.
us, I'm sorry. I was going to maybe do a little clarification for those of us who may be familiar with a show called Storage Wars and the types of businesses that they run when they go to the storage auctions, and also surplus, as Mina was saying about the surplus overstocks and things like that, which are new items.
Correct.
So to the question you have, Cindy, it's going to be varied. So I don't think it's not going to be very easy to pinpoint what they're going to be selling.
I understand. So it's not going to be like a Trudell's kind of antique kind of stuff, right?
No
Okay.
antiques. I don't like antiques. I learned my lesson from my last store.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm not trying to, I'm not questioning the validity. I was just curious, that's all. Thank you.
I understand. No problem.
Okay, any further questions or comments from my colleagues?
What is
Hearing
the
none, I
plan
will-
for time frame?
Pardon?
What is your plan for time frame for reopening and with the new business?
Oh, last month. No.
Yeah, I think that's true
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
with this, as soon as we're allowed to open up in Massachusetts, which I understand on the news that they're going to start opening small businesses in Massachusetts. So whenever we're allowed to open, that's when we're opening.
Okay.
So if we're told tomorrow, you can bet your bottom dollar we'll be open tomorrow.
All right. Any further questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Spencer, just clarification on the hours so I heard it'll be 6 days a week, 10 to 7. You're not sure which day. So should the permit read 7 days, 10 to 7, with their choice to close whatever day they want?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Hillary on this one. Do we need to have the license with specific hours?
We don't have to, no.
You don't? Okay, great. Thank you.
I have one other question, gentlemen and ladies. We're also, which I have had good outcome at my previous store, which was in Bellingham and one in Blackstone. I was selling not shiners, mealworms, night crawlers, you know, for people to go fishing, because we will be selling fishing equipment as well. Is that going to be an issue this time? I didn't have one last time. We're not eating them. We're not eating them. Trust me.
We don't have enough places in town that sell them either.
I'm just wondering. So it wouldn't be a common Vic license we'd be looking at.
Could be a Bruce question. No?
Bruce, you still here? There you are, sitting there by your moon.
Come on, Bruce. So that shouldn't be an issue, correct?
No, that wouldn't require a food permit.
Okay. All right. Very good. I just want to, you know, reiterate on that one, seeing I had no problem in the past.
All right, perfect. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I make a comment? My name's Mark Poirier. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief. I'm just wondering, did you submit a layout plan of the store to the building inspector?
All right, for this, we're not gonna change anything. Actually, we're not gonna do any renovation. Basically, all what I did is I take my equipment out and I'm gonna keep everything. I don't know if you're familiar with the setup. We had some like half walls or something in the store. Everything is gonna stay the same. I'm not gonna change any, even the counter is gonna be the same. Basically, all what I did, I removed all my equipment and chairs, that's it.
And we just painted.
And painted, that's it.
Okay, so what I'm concerned about is overstock, and you're losing your means of egress. You're gonna need to have at least some aisles for movability and for the customers to get out and the employees to get out of the building.
Yes.
And I'm also
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. As for the egress, the hallway isn't going to be used for storage. The hallway for the egress to the back of the store is just going to be where we're bringing items in. Then we're going to relocate those items at that time when we bring them in downstairs in the basement.
Okay, and so I'll talk about the basement in a second, but so the store is going to need some kind of aisle marked out. Either it's taped out or however you want to do it. So there has to be some distinguished aisles that are set up and approved by the building department and the fire department.
Okay.
Okay, so if you could draw that out, that would be much appreciated. So we could just have a record showing that these are the dedicated aisles that you would like to use.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just going to be set up like in the middle, and there's going to be plenty of room for the customers to walk on either side of that aisle, of that section in the middle of the room. So we can do that. That's fine.
Okay. So just a plan of some sorts that it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just drawn out on a piece of paper so we can have some records.
Okay.
And downstairs, we'll have to have something similar. You can't just fill the whole basement with material. So,
right. No, that's not going to be it.
All right. So, so you have to draw something out for us with the basement also.
Okay.
And submit it to the building and the fire department, if you don't mind.
Not a problem, sir.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
No, it's Michael.
Oh.
Mr. Michael. It's Mina Michael.
I think he was referring to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spencer.
No worries. So at this point, are there any other public comments? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All right, we have a first from.
How soon will the license be? Do we pick it up? Do you mail it?
Well,
what is it?
We haven't voted on the license yet, so hold on one sec.
Oh, go ahead,
right.
vote. I agree.
So we have a first to close the public hearing from Mr. McNulty, a second from Mr. Biaggi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0. All right. At this point, I will entertain a motion to grant the secondhand dealer's license.
Yay! Thank you,
No
guys.
one's-
No.
We have-
I make a motion to approve the secondhand dealer's license.
Okay. And can I just add to that, Don? With the contingent of the drawing of the layout for the building
Yes.
inspector and the fire department. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we have a first from Mr. Martinez. We have a second from Mr. Biaggi. Hillary, do you have the motion
Yes, I
in
do.
place? Okay.
Anytime we vote on a license like this, it's always contingent that the business is ready to open, like the fire has been there,
Okay.
planning it. So anytime we ever do a license, it's always contingent that everything is all set.
Okay.
So.
All right. Perfect. All right. So any additional current comments, concerns, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? 0. Now you
Now
can
you can
clap.
celebrate, Mina.
Yay! Thank you. It's the best news
Good.
since this coronavirus.
Best of luck, folks.
Thank you so much. Be
Thank you.
safe, guys.
All right. You
Thank
too.
you.
All right. Next on our agenda is Mr. DiMartino, DPW Director, with regard to some easement takings.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And this is not a formality. It needs to be done. It's a step in the process to acquire the easements and parcels that we voted on, the town voted on in Article 12 of the November town meeting to eventually construct a project in the Charles River Grove area, First Ave, Middle Ave, Third Ave, which is at this point pretty much shovel ready, just looking for funding ready. So this is one of a few steps that has to happen related to these takings. We've already voted it. The residents were notified long ago. The board just at a regular meeting needs to vote and sign, or vote to sign the document. It needs to be notarized, and then it will be recorded. Effectively, that's the closing that allows us to send the checks out and to take ownership as we need it to do the construction. So that's a fairly simple, straightforward. The only glitch in this whole process was that the article was amended on the floor to remove parcels owned by Mr. Arcan. Those were removed, and the parcel that we need is under a verbal purchase and sales agreement and on the town meeting for June. So we're resolving all the land acquisition requirements to get this project going. And this is the step to get these parcels actually recorded and ready to rock and roll.
All right. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments for Mr. DiMartino?
I do not.
All
No.
right. I will entertain a motion to approve the takings.
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right. And these ones are for, hold on, I'm rolling back up to my,
Charles
My agenda.
River Grove.
so this, all right, so the Charles River Grove easement takings. So we have a first from, I forget who did it, Cindy?
Yes.
Cindy and Bob.
And a second from Bob. All right. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 0. All right, Damon Road.
On this same topic, just ever so briefly, just today, Jim has brought up the fact that we may be able to get, I guess it's MVP, I'll let you tell you what that stands for, Jim, funding is in concert, hopefully, with 319 funding, which is a federal stormwater program, to possibly get the funds to pay for this with almost no further investment by the town. We're well into the engineering and so forth. We've already got Concom approval. So, but we're just kicking that off now. I sent something off to our stormwater engineers who helped us in the last 319 grant. And hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be looking at a proposal to have them help us or help Jim. He's a better grant writer, request of the funding and possibly get this thing going sooner rather than later. So, because it's got an over $1 million price tag to do the whole thing. So hopefully we'll have some good news on that
All right,
front.
so I will.
Yeah,
Sounds
didn't have
good.
to ask, just some more information.
Always hopeful.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item I've got is.
So I
for me-
will entertain a motion.
You don't have to. That was just informational.
Nope, all right, good.
All right, the next thing
All
is
right, so now you-
Damon Road, Hickson Street. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen, and I've been doing this a while. The developer, I believe, when they were developing the vacant parcel, I think it was Varney who owned it. Varney constructed the first two houses in anticipation that a subdivision road would go between them, but that they may sell the subdivision to somebody else, established two temporary construction easements, which really could have been dissolved, but they're on a plan, and they still sort of exist. And in acceptance of the subdivision, they became town property, and we have absolutely no use for them. It's a temporary construction easement is to construct something. The developer had those available to him, so to not worry about infringing on somebody else's property while developing. We don't need them anymore. The residents on the two parcels have asked that we release them back. The only issue would be if they had a significant value and they have effectively no value. Temporary easements barely have $1,000 value, on often less than that. And actually often on town projects, we just take them for nothing. So the residents have requested this. I see no problem with it. And I believe on the second page of my email at the top is a motion that the process was suggested by town council to release it, and then the town meeting will vote to release it, and they'll actually be dissolved, no longer shown on the plans, and become the full and rightful property of the owners who actually own them now with their easements across it.
All right, so at this point, I will read the motion and I will ask for someone to move it. So we're looking for a motion to confirm that the town no longer has any needed use for the two construction easements shown on the attached plans on the lots located at the corners of Damon Road and Hickson Street. They are surplus to the town's need. So I will look for a motion to move that.
So moved.
We have a first from Mr. Martinez, a second from Mrs. McNulty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, and good night.
Mary and Paul, if you guys want to kind of talk about our adoption of the tax relief notice.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. On Friday afternoon, I sent you guys a series of materials related to the tax relief provisions that have been enabled under Mass General Law. And so I'd like to go over those with you. And if you're looking for sort of a song sheet to follow along, it would be the cover letter that I had prepared for the board that went out on Friday. So essentially on Friday, April 3rd, the governor signed a piece of legislation giving some emergency recourse to communities with respect to town meeting dates, election dates, and even property tax relief. Any provision of this legislation that we choose to implement will require the select board's approval. So with that said, I am recommending to your board that we adopt the following provisions, and there are 4 of them. First is to move the due date of the fiscal 2020 fourth quarter real estate and personal property tax bills from May 1st to June 1st. Second is to move the due dates of the fiscal 2020 motor excise, water, sewer, and trash bills to June 1st for bills that are due between March 10th and May 1st, 2020. Number 3 is to move the due date for applications for property tax exemptions and tax deferrals from the current due date of April 1st to June 1st, 2020. And lastly, to waive interest and other fees for late payment of fiscal 2020 excise, tax, betterment, water, sewer, trash, or other charges added to a tax bill, as well as current user charges for water, sewer, and trash for any payments with a due date on or after March 10th, 2020, where a payment is made late but received on or before June 30th, 2020. I would like to say that if folks are able to make their tax payments on time, we certainly urge them to do so. However, these recommendations are being proposed to assist in the short term any Bellingham taxpayers who are currently facing financial difficulties and waiting for stimulus money or unemployment funding to come in. If a taxpayer cannot pay on time, penalties and interest will be waived through June 30th. However, this waiver does not apply to any bills or payments that were due prior to March 10th, 2020. With that being said, I open it up to the board for questions.
All right, so do any of my colleagues have any questions with regards to this?
Seems pretty straightforward, Mary. Thank you.
No, understand it.
All right. So at this point, if we have no additional questions, just one thing I want to make clear, and I know Mary made it clear, but I'm just going to reiterate, these are for bills that were due on or after March 10th. If they were due prior to, they will not be subject to the exemption. Okay.
Great.
So, all right. So I'm looking
Can
for
I-
someone to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, can I just make one qualification? I just want to stress that these are only for fourth quarter, so anything for FY20 only. I was speaking with some other folks earlier, and this legislation only applies for bills through June 30th. So FY21 has not been taken under consideration at this point. And should the legislature decide to extend any tax relief provisions into FY21, we would need to have another conversation. And at that point, I am more than likely not going to be recommending tax relief provisions into FY21. So these are strictly only apply to our FY20 fourth quarter bills between now and June 30.
Okay, great. And Mary, I know you kind of laid out the chart as far as financial impact to receipts. Obviously, there's a wide range of potential implications based on how many people take advantage of this versus don't. But you don't anticipate it to be significant, I guess is the word I'll use.
Well, any impact to our revenues is certainly an impact that's felt for sure. However, given sort of the unprecedented times that we are in, and given the fact that there are folks who are out of work and are waiting on stimulus money and unemployment assistance to kick in, it is a measure that the town is afforded to provide some temporary relief. In terms of absorbing the impact, my estimation is that this loss of revenue, if you will, for interest and penalties is probably going to be in the order of between $30,000 to $50,000. That's not insignificant for sure. However, I've taken a look at our current revenue position, and I've taken a look at our local receipts. There are some areas in our local receipts that are coming in much stronger than our estimates. In particular, our building permits are up significantly. So I believe for this one quarter, and that's all we're talking about, and delaying interest that's due and payable for 1 month, I believe that we will be able to absorb this impact and provide a measure of relief for some folks to get over this particular challenge in the very short term.
All right, great. Any further comments, questions, concerns?
No.
All right. I will ask someone to move the motion to adopt the tax relief provisions outlined in the Town of Bellingham Notice to Taxpayers dated April 13th, 2020.
So moved.
We have a first from Mrs.
Second.
McNulty. We have a second from Mr. Connor. I believe he beat you.
Okay. All right.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Zero. One additional comment I do have is, Mary, are you still at the office?
Yes.
Are you sleeping in
What?
tonight?
No, I'm heading out when we're done here.
Okay. Get home, would you?
I will.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you guys.
Have a
All
good
right.
evening.
So at this point, I will look for motions for the March 2nd, March 16th, and March 30th minutes to approve.
Motion
So
to approve
moved.
3 dates.
March 2nd, March 16th, and March 30th. Which March 30th was our first virtual meeting.
Second.
So we have a first from Cynthia McNulty, a second from Mr. Biaggi. Any additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. March abatements, Mr. Biaggi.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board vote to approve the March abatements for capital sewer trash water in the amount of $3,841.41.
We have a first from Mr. Biaggi. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Connor.
Thanks, Mike.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. All right. Mr. Frayne, Town Administrator's report.
All right, we continue to meet twice each morning. I know a lot of you attend those meetings, and our Deputy Fire Chief's been doing a great job, along with Bruce, really keeping people up to date on what's happening. We're up to, I think, 34 cases. We had a couple reported again this afternoon. And if you listen this morning, you'll know Esther, our public health nurse, is doing a phenomenal job as well. She's our Tony Fauci of Bellingham, I think. Just really keeping us up to speed, doing great work. But he was saying that most of these cases are people that are out in the public. Either they're working in retail, they're emergency responders living in other towns. We haven't had any. There are people that are out there. So it's interesting to note that it's not so much clusters. I know there was one family of 5, I believe, that were infected with the virus. So people are doing a good job. I know we noted today that there was a group, someone had suggested that we need to do a little bit more on the ball fields. There was a group out there playing softball. But I think for the most part, people are doing well. Even at the SNET trail this weekend, it wasn't terrible. People were out there. There were a lot of cars, but for the most part, people are observing social distance. I think people are getting used to it and get it for the most part. Some of the things that we're looking at, the Memorial Day committees canceled their parade. I don't know if you saw that. We'll be looking at some of the summertime activities, July 4th, maybe a household hazardous waste day. We have a little bit of time to think about with regard to those activities. I don't know how comfortable people are going to feel about, cozying up on July 4th in large crowds, but we'll see how things progress. We don't have to act on that right away, but the Memorial Day committee did cancel their parade. So that was taken care of. Mr. Hastings took care of that. I think last week. They're still going to do something on Memorial Day, but they're going to keep it much smaller than it's been. But all in all, things are running. We're getting used to the new systems. Jim and Karen have been hosting our meetings and doing a great job with that, so we appreciate that. Everybody's kind of been chipping in different ways. We're all finding different ways to communicate and get the job done. So it's been a real team effort, and it's been a challenge, but I think it's worked out extremely well. Mark or Bruce, I don't know if you have any updates for the board relative to what's been going on in town with the emergency management.
Dennis, you summed it up, so I don't want to keep everybody. Perfect.
The 2 additional cases were husband and wife, so they were both in one household. I did have a quick chat with Esther before jumping in. So I mean, the numbers still creep. We were at like 1 a day. Now we're averaging 3 and 4 a day throughout the weekend and stuff. So the numbers are climbing. So I mean, we still need the impress upon people to stay home and only go out for necessities. But in all, I don't think we could be a lot worse if you look at some of the other towns.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right. Do we have any old business? Does anyone have any new business?
Mr. Chairman, this is Cindy.
Yes.
I have a couple I'd like to entertain.
Yep.
First is I heard very sadly that Mr. Ambler passed away. Wasn't sure if there was anything that we wanted to do for him in the way of for his family, acknowledging all that he did for the town.
Well, you stole that from me, Cindy.
Oh,
That
I'm
was gonna be
sorry.
my new business.
I apologize. Okay. So
That's
obviously
okay.
it's something you're thinking about, but I mean, you know.
That's all right. Do you have something else?
Okay, so we're gonna just come back to that later, or?
Yes, we'll come back to that.
The
Prior to
second
adjourning.
thing- The second thing, Dan, is I know you've been covering the 10 o'clock TV broadcasts, and I was just wondering if maybe the rest of us on the board, when we can help defray some of that for you so that you're not needing to do that every day. Happy to help if that's in fact what you want. Just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Well, that is very much appreciated. Kind of along those lines, Sue, is we are always looking, and I know you reached out to the Bellingham Business Association
Yes.
with regards to getting some special guests from local businesses in town, kind of to come on the 10 o'clock broadcast to discuss their practices and what they're looking at. So if any of the board have some recommendations for who they think would be a good guest to come on, by all means reach out. Deputy Chief Poirier is the man who kind of is in charge of that. And if you have some recommendations as far as businesses or even just local officials or local entities, by all means, let's figure that out. That can give some additional information to the folks out there. Is what we're looking for. And as far as stepping in at the 10 o'clock, anytime anyone wants to do so, let me know. I can stay in sweatpants all day. Work out.
Well, I didn't know if there was something like we could each, I don't know, like
Each take a day.
split up the week.
I'm happy to take a day. It's been difficult for me to be on the 9 o'clock calls because I do have a morning work 9 o'clock call.
All right.
But 10
Well,
o'clock, I can certainly be there. They don't last all that long.
No. All right. So let's we'll talk individually offline and kind of figure out maybe if we get a schedule together. That'll work out perfect.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Going back to your original new business, as you mentioned, Mr. Ambler had passed away this past weekend. He was integral in this community for over 50 years, served many years as town council, and it was a very vibrant participant at town meetings, to say the least. So if you would all indulge me, I would like to at least share a moment of silence on behalf of Mr. Ambler. Thank you, everybody. Having reached the conclusion of our agenda, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. I heard it from Mr. Bobbiaggi first, and a second
Wait,
from Mr. Connor. Whoop,
Dan.
whoop, sorry.
So a couple of the things you guys did tonight, we need signatures. If you guys wouldn't mind popping in sometime this week, I have a folder on the conference room table downstairs. One of them is the town meeting warrant. So if you wouldn't mind coming in sooner rather than later to sign that. The order of the taking from Dawn needs to be signed, and the licenses that we approved, if you could just sign them. This way, as soon as everything else has been met, I have that ready for them to give them. That's done.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
No problem.
Thank you, Hillary. All right. First from Mr. Biaggi to adjourn, second by Mr. Connor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Stay safe.